I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for April 2nd, 2025. Roll call, please.
Arel. Here. Budke. Here. Kleva. Present. Kuhn. Here. Holt. He's present online.
I believe he's online.
Mattson.
Here.
Reichert.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Wasvik.
Present.
All present. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you for that. Reading and approval of the minutes from the March 5th, 2025 meeting. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion on those minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes are submitted as, approved as submitted, sorry. Public hearings, final approvals, petitions, and minor changes. 3-1.
3-1 ordinance to amend City of Grand Forks Chapter 18 Land Development Code relating to membership of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. So this one, we did go through last month. It's still been working its way through legislative as well. It is approved on both sides. I think there was just a minor tweak to the bill, and so it does go back through the Senate side. I think for the most part, the form of the bill is the way it's going to probably get approved. And so what we have before us is the request for the base wing commander to have a representative on this body as an ex officio. This would be final reading of this ordinance, and it would, if this is approved tonight, it would move forward to City Council for final approval in April.
Mr. Reichert.
So do we want to table this and wait for the stuff to get passed, or do we want to pass it tonight?
That's up to you guys.
I mean,
It is not, I would say they're a little bit mutually exclusive between the two. Our language is not perfectly fitting, I guess, what the state has. So I don't know if one would need to be before the other one. We wouldn't have to see what the state law, other than if it was saying that a city required to have a designee on there. It doesn't say that under the current law, but I think this provides another avenue to have them on there. And I believe the county is moving forward with theirs as well, as I understand it. They're doing a similar piece. It does provide as well, if somebody says, does the state law need to provide this, if the cities are already doing it and the counties as well? So I think it does provide that as an option as well.
I suppose we can approve it, and then if the city if the city council decides they want to table it, they can table it.
Certainly.
Yeah, was that, go ahead, Mr. Mattson.
Yeah, just questioning, a month ago when we saw this, we were kind of curious to see if the Air Force had any feedback, if they were interested. Do they want to be involved in this commission anyway, advisory role, ex officio, like what
Yeah.
feedback have we gotten in the last month?
I haven't from them personally, but I do, they are aware that we are working through this, and I have not received that they did not want to be moving forward on that, but I don't think it's unusual for me not to be able to necessarily get information from them direct, but they are aware, and I think folks have talked to them about this going through, just not me specifically.
Miss Sandy, I thought I heard you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Reichert. Any further discussion? Mr. Budke, please.
Yes, so just to clarify, Ryan, you said in your status update, the current status of the bill and the one that's likely to pass, does that create like the so many mile zone over
No.
which, or is that changed?
They'll look at each, I want to say it was the form that we were talking about last month, but they went from a hard line of 25 miles to let's take a look at each base. That may or may not include it within Grand Forks. It depends. It's each base would be individual. So this is Grand Forks reaching out and saying, please come and sit as an ex officio. they'll take a look at Grand Forks, they'll take a look at the mission and decide what their radius is going to be for, it's Grand Forks Air Force Base, Minot Air Force Base, I think it was Camp Grafton South, and I believe the Cavalier as well. So there's 4 different places they're taking a look at.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe the language was changed to take out the 25-mile radius and just call it an impact zone instead of a hard-line dimension, which really takes the city and maybe it's in the zone, maybe it isn't.
How far out does the city limits go towards Air Force Base?
Well, city limits, the Grand Forks, or the Grand Forks Airport is within city limits.
It is, okay.
It is. It's essentially what we call kind of this umbilical cord that runs along the north side of Highway 2 out to the Grand Forks Airport. So that would be the closest we get to the airport. And at that point, I want to say that they're 12 miles roughly, 12, 14 miles, somewhere in that region from the airbase.
Okay, any further discussion? I guess we got a motion and a second on the floor. With that, excuse me, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, 3-1 passes. 3-2.
Replat of Lot 1, Block 1, Grand Valley, First Edition.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant has requested for this item be tabled.
Mr. Reichert.
Move table.
Second by Mr. Clave. There's no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed, same sign. 3-2 is tabled. 3-3.
Replat of Lots A and C, Block 1, Homestead Grove, First Edition.
Ms. Grasser.
All right, good evening. So here we're on the 4600 block of South Washington Street. This was brought forward by Woodseth from owners of Magnolia Equity LLC and JVK Investments LLC. What we're looking at here is splitting this Lot A into 3 separate lots, D, E, and F. Here's a better picture. And then with that, they will also all stay within that corridor overlay district, and then that will allow for them to put in this shared access and better connect that to the lower south lots there. And again, they're just looking to replat A into 3 separate lots and connecting it to that current development. We did not receive any comments from public notice. There is an ordinance attached, and we're recommending approval.
All right. I did make a mistake. I did not have a public hearing on 3-1. Whoops. 3-3, I'll open it up for any questions to Ms. Grasser from the commission. Not seeing any right away, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience like to step up and address 3-3, please do so at this time. Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the commission. Mr. Reichert?
Move approval.
Second by Ms. Sorrell. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. 3-3 passes. 3-4.
3-4, resolution to rename portions of 2nd Avenue North from North 25th Street to Columbia Road from 2nd Avenue North to Red Jarrett Way.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. So on this one, here's 2nd Avenue. Here's Memorial Stadium. I think most of us are familiar. Memorial Village 1, 2. Here's the overpass as you come down, I guess, as you're heading to the north. A request is from UND. They'd like to rename 2nd Avenue from Cornell Street with, ironically, as you head west from Columbia. It's actually a private street through there. But from this location over to North 25th Street, here's a softball field here. They'd like to rename this Red Jarrett Way. This has a collection of UND sports type facilities, the 2 Memorial Villages, the Fritz Pollard facility, There's probably a few more office buildings in the MV1 as well. They've worked with those two owners as well. They would be addressed then off of Red Jarrett Way. Like I said, the request is from the university. There is a university representative here tonight to speak a little bit about what the request is and potentially maybe a little bit about Red Jarrett. I think we included the letter as well from the president in the packet, so you may have already read some of that. But that's a request. I think it's a little bit about the marketing and that type of thing that UND is working on, and through their process of the redevelopment of campus through this area. So with that, if you'd like, there is a representative from UND.
Well, first off, we'll just get any questions for Mr. Brooks on this before we open it up. There's a public hearing. Let's open up the public hearing. Anybody in the audience want to address 3-4, please come up and do so at this time. Maybe that's the right time to call the gentleman up and
Thank you.
have him speak. Please come up and just state your name for the record.
All right. Good evening, Commission. My name is Brian Larson. I'm the Director of Construction Management at UND. And just to reiterate what Mr. Brooks just said, we're requesting to formally rename a section of 2nd Avenue North as Red Jarrett Way. That would be from 25th Street on the east end going west to Columbia Road. After Columbia Road, 2nd Avenue does extend into UND's campus. We would plan on maintaining that Red Jarrett Way name up until Cornell. As Mr. Brooks said, on either side of 2nd Avenue North for this stretch of road, we have UND athletics facilities on both sides of the road, and renaming this section of street or road after Red Jarrett would be a way of memorializing his legacy to campus, UND athletics, and our community here as a whole. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Reichert?
So the concern I always have when we rename a street, I get lots of business owners that do deliveries, that do things like that. It confuses them, it makes things more difficult. And then if we're just going to rename a 2-block section, I think that definitely leads into that. But at the same time, I understand, I think this is a worthy cause. But is there, I mean, you could still put a sign up there that calls it that. You could, I mean, you guys have more naming opportunities than anywhere else in town. I mean, you could put his name on a million different things. Is there a specific reason that we should change the name of one of our streets or just a small section of one of our streets that I'm not thinking of?
You know, from what I could answer, we did consider an honorary renaming versus a formal renaming, which is what we're asking here today. It is the president of the university's explicit wishes to formally rename the street to honor the Jarrett family.
Okay, he can't rename one of the other streets on campus?
I could bring the question back to President Armacost, but with the athletic facilities on both sides of the road, it really feels at home at this specific location.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr.
I
Bugby?
would like to just
Oh.
make a comment if I can.
Go ahead, Megan.
When I'm looking at that map, it doesn't appear to me, I mean, it's a private road and it's university buildings and whatnot, so I don't think that we should have to worry about businesses being, having any confusion. And all of that area seems to be under construction or finishing construction right now, so I don't see any reason not to move forward with this, but I'd make the motion to approve it if we're done with the public hearing.
Yeah, we'll finish up the public hearing, keep that in our pocket. I kind of, I want to honor somebody, I have no problem doing a lot of construction in this area and getting deliveries and then looking at all the apartment units or whatever you want to call them. Could be a real mess. I'm with you, but whatever the commission wants to do. Anybody else? Mr. Burrell, I saw you first.
Sorry. Would it make sense, and I hate to add on to it, but would it make sense to go to the intersection of like where ERC is? Because you've got the Human Nutrition Lab on the other side, which is also essentially a campus building. I mean, it's private, but it's still sort of campus. So would that cutoff make better not to extend our extend the craziness, but that seems more full campus versus just stopping right there on Second Avenue. I don't know, because then you really truly get into residential right at the EERC area, right? I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, I could add from my context, and then if Mr. Brooks has more, as you extend east, or as you move east from 25th, we get into the Human Nutrition Lab, which is a federal building, and then there's the EERC as well, which is not, they don't typically interact with our athletic facilities, although we do use their parking lot at the moment. And so we thought that was a logical place to stop the renaming request at 23rd, or at 25th, rather than extending to 23rd.
For the lay people that live here, they would consider that sort of still part of campus, though, I think, right?
Sir?
Yeah, just sort of dovetailing off of what Alex said earlier, like, go for a stroll through the neighborhood, and I see there's like Honorary Glassheim Way, I think it is. I think that happened maybe before I even moved to town. So like, was there a discussion, or was there an action by, say, the commission then, or the city council? Like, how was that decision made?
I think that went through city council, and it was through resolution. It was honorary. No address changed, and the official street name is still South or North 3rd Street, and it might go down to South 3rd as well. And they're just signs that are up as options. I was also going to mention just there were some other individual homes that are along to Miss Arel's point over to North 23rd, up on the north side of 2nd. There were some homes that would potentially have address changes as well, but EERC itself, I believe, comes out to North 23rd in terms of their address, but I just wanted to point that out. That was one of the reasons I think it was truncated as well, and then it was a sports focus.
And this street is not private, right? This is a city street.
Yeah, on the east side of Columbia, it's public street, correct?
Mr. Clayton?
Before you guys have a vote, I'm a UND employee, so I would like to be recused from voting.
So moved.
Second. Done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Done. Thank you. Mr. Mattson?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the same thing as Alex said, just the city street, the numbering process, I can kind of see, obviously, UND's, appeal to changes, but when you're flying over the overpass at, 40 miles an hour and the GPS tells you to turn on 2nd, are we going to have concerns with any of the numbering and those types of things? I guess I'd be more in favor of trying to keep things in line with what the street is as you head further east, so.
Okay, yeah, any more questions for this gentleman so I can close the public hearing and get back to business? I appreciate it. I think you got some of the thoughts from the commission on what everybody was thinking. We do have a motion on the floor. So it's just what we want to do with it.
We need a second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Plan on having a vote. I guess I'm trying to give Derek and Mr. Holt and Miss Sandy time to chime in too, so that's why I'm pausing. With that, any further discussion?
Steve, since you were giving us a moment to chime in, I think we've come to a point where the GPS is updated so quickly that I don't think this is going to end up being an issue. It's no different than a new development going in and there's a new road and the UPS guy still knows where you are. So I just feel like supporting the university and something that means a lot to them and is such a small, it's not even a sacrifice to the city of Grand Forks. It's a tiny stretch of road by their new athletic complex. So, yeah, I hope that we can be supportive of this.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll call for a vote. Mr. Budke stopped me just in time.
Yeah, just, I think I have a little more trepidation about this. Perhaps not so much on the deliveries, but the fact that the street the street alignment is completely the same, right? So it's like you're on,
Yeah.
you know, at some point in space, like at the center of 25th Street, I suppose you no longer are on Second Avenue North, you're now on the name street. So I think it's a nice gesture, and I know we've honored community members before. I'm not sure that renaming 2 blocks of Second Avenue North that's in line with Second Avenue North is the best way of doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Budke. Okay. With that, Mr. Mattson?
And I would reiterate what you said earlier, where we have sections of streets that are designated that. So I would say if the university would like to designate that, or we allow them that, and they want to address their buildings accordingly, I assume we could do that and not formally change the city street name.
Okay. Very good. With that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I guess, doesn't, you four are no's. Okay. I didn't hear Mr. Holt's vote, I'm sorry.
In favor.
Okay. So 4-3, it fails. That's what I've got. So motion denied. All right.
I think we have 8 people total voting.
I think it was 5-3.
1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, we have one abstaining.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So 5-3?
5-2.
5-3.
5-3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
I said it right the first time. Right?
Yeah.
5-3. All right. Communications and preliminary approvals, 4-1.
For one, ordinance to amend zoning map query second PUD amendment from R1 to R2.
Mr. Brooks, again.
Well, I'll cover this one quickly, and I know we kind of sent this out to everybody. On occasion, when we have folks that come in, want to increase density, we have them do a neighborhood meeting that's actually hosted by the developer. In this case, it was along Cottonwood Street between 59th and 61st Avenue, highlighted here on the map. They were looking to go from R1 to R2 to go from single family up to twin homes in that area. I'll say that lightly attended probably neighborhood meeting. And sometimes that's just, when you catch folks, but I would say there was one individual specifically at that neighborhood meeting that brought up a couple points that I wasn't aware of. There's restrictive covenants on this property that actually require 3 stall garages in this neighborhood and certain sized lots. That was put into place about 5 years ago by the developer. And, when people are buying, especially directly behind here, I think that's a pretty compelling piece to what they expected from their neighborhood. In addition, we've received one online comment as well, and I think we included that in the packet as well from an individual. So with that, I guess we're recommending denial. I think these are still good single-family lots. I don't know if we've given it enough time to see. We have heard that there was interest from that one individual. There was interest in people buying these and putting single-family lots. If there's a desire for twin home lots by this developer, we can certainly work with them as staff as to perhaps there's another location that doesn't have some direct neighbors already there. So with that, our recommendation was denial on this item.
Did the developer speak at all about the covenants?
It was just no, the developer himself wasn't there. He had a representative
And they didn't know.
that attended, and they didn't know about it, or at least didn't seem aware of it either. So it was something that was signed by them, and Miss Sandy actually forwarded it to our office today, so I got a chance to read it. So I appreciate her.
Oh,
going through
so
that.
we've verified that it exists?
Yes,
Oh,
it has
okay. I got a
existed,
copy. Oh, okay.
and Miss Sandy actually called the county and got copies of it. I had looked online and they were not linked with the properties, but she did call and got copies of them and sent them over to us. So I've looked at it, I verified it, and the legal description does match this area. So that's not to say they couldn't amend them, but in this case, they would be majority owner. I think they'd be imposing something on some individual lot owners. So they have to go through that rezoning, and they're kind of voicing their concern that this is not what they had intended for that area. They'd like to see it stay single family.
Agreed. All right. Any questions for Mr. Brooks? Mr. Budke?
Could you clarify, Ryan, the restrictive covenant? Like, it applies to these properties in question?
Yeah, it's for all of Prairie 7th. So with Prairie 7th, which is, apologize, I didn't have that pulled up. So this area here, Cottonwood, essentially over to Belmont, 59th down to 62nd is all of Prairie 7th. All of those areas have a size requirement. There's other things in the restrictive covenant. City does not typically enforce those.
Right.
But it definitely showed the intent of that developer and those people that bought what that neighborhood was going to look like. And that was a pretty compelling reason when we spoke to this individual of why she, and she lived directly behind. So she was one of these four that was, she would be backed up to those where the proposed change would be.
It's really tough to change now. Since they did what we asked, they put covenants on, they had the sign up, they told all the neighbors what it was gonna be, people started buying out there, and here we are. We everything's in place to what it should be.
Sure. You said that, like, this commission asked that there be covenants
We put
in
in
place?
plans a long time ago for signage. Like, if you're looking
Right.
for a home, Andrew, you drive around and go, oh, this is all single family, or I'm okay with some duplexes, whatever.
Yep.
And I drive down 62nd 4 times a day, so
Sure.
I know this. But if you look at it and go, how can we now go back and rezone something when people already built there? Knowing what's behind them or thinking what they knew was behind them. That's
Sure.
a tough one for me, because I've seen it on the other foot so many times where people didn't know that it was already zoned that way, and we have to stick with that zoning.
Yes, I understand.
It's a
And
tough sled.
I think we didn't ask for the restrictive covenants. They did put those on there, so that was over and above. That was not a city requirement, I think, to your
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Right, but you bought the house with good intentions, right?
The neighborhood signs did go up. I know for certain, I believe this one's still up, and I thought they had one, I want to say down in
There's
Sheridan.
one over
Those
there.
who drive by would see those more, but those are up. I've seen those up, and I don't think they've disappeared since then, although we should probably go back out post-snowfall and make sure that a lot of those are still up.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just a comment, as I'm looking at one screen here, and the document you sent us with our packet, just east of there's Plymouth Parkway on the document. On the screen over here, I'm seeing Plymouth Lane. Is that, we're talking street names here, so I'm just curious if we just randomly decided to change a street name and
I believe it's Plymouth Lane. And yeah, this is Plymouth Lane. Where did you see Plymouth Parkway?
in the.
On the packet.
Packet that you sent out, so with the
The map, the bigger map,
We'll do some checking on that. It could be that,
the actual plat.
Yeah,
looks
the
like.
plat. And I noticed, like, 60th has now been, this hasn't been updated, it says future roadway.
I think Plymouth Parkway was going to be the name. So this isn't a plat, this is a PUD.
Okay.
The plat has the official name, so I'm guessing it changed between when this went into play and they just missed renaming to a lane. Actually, that's probably a city comment at that time. It probably originally was submitted as Parkway. We don't allow parkways as naming. We have specific what we allow for naming nomenclatures, so that's my guess of what happened on that, but I will verify. Parkway is not correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Reichert.
Move denial.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Ms. Earl. Any further discussion? Mr. Budke.
Sorry. Just when I first looked at this, and I don't think there was any mention of the restrictive covenants when the packet was sent out. I get nervous at the idea of when land is being developed, it's being zoned, and then it's going to be that way forever, right? Like it's going to be frozen in amber forever. So I understand that there's interest in the folks that are prospective developers or buyers, like wanting to know what's going on around. I get that, absolutely. But I also think that, like, we have to be able to, as a city, like, respond to new conditions, new market conditions, new information even. So I think there's a lot about the circumstance here that makes this tough, but I also just want to voice that we should give ourselves space to rezone things. I don't think that this is like a cardinal sin to rezone.
Mr. Reichert?
Yeah, I don't practice in this area of law, but as I recall from law school, they can do whatever they want with their land. They've decided to tie it up. Those covenants run with the land for as long as they want them to, the majority vote. We can't do anything. If we change the zoning, they could be in a position where these lands are completely unbuildable because you have, the covenants say one thing, the zoning says the other. So you're either going to have a lawsuit if you build it the way the city does, or you're going to have the city say you can't do it if you follow the covenants.
But yeah, that's a great point. I'm curious if somebody could answer, like, is it possible to build the proposed attached homes and still meet the terms of the restrictive covenant?
No way. Not that I saw in the covenants when I read them.
I haven't tried to lay out with what they would potentially change to, but I don't think 3-stall garage would probably fit on that, not without having a continuous 3-stall garage. That now becomes a 27-stall garage or whatever it is.
Mr. Corbin, real quick?
I'm President Wozniak, members of the commission. I'm here I'm with CPS, as you guys all know. I'm working with Thompson Homes to make the zoning change. I haven't actually seen the covenant. At that neighborhood meeting, one of the attendees talked about the covenants, and I think she said that it was a triple garage requirement. So I can't say if it will fit on there or not, but if the PUD is approved, we would be coming in the following month with a new plat. And obviously why they want to do this is to increase the density. So right now there's 12 lots there, and they're proposing to go to 18.
But because covenants is, Mr. Corbin, specifically say single-family lots.
Okay, except I haven't seen the covenant.
Yeah, I mean, the one I read today said single-family lots.
Yeah, there was
It was
a lot that.
black and white, pretty much, I mean.
Yeah, I'd have to go through again and look at that, but we can forward that to you as well.
Okay.
Steve?
Yes, Mr. Kuhn.
We've been through a number of these over the years, and when they're already being developed, houses or lots sold, it adversely affects the value of their property to move it from single family to duplexes, whatever you want to call it. And I can't recall one that we've really approved before. Keeping that in mind.
It's a definite slippery
If they want to
slope.
come in and do a plan and show a whole bunch of duplexes and later on move them to single family, that has been approved. Because people know what they're getting at that point. But once they've bought, and now we're gonna rezone something here to make it easier for the developer, you're adversely affecting people that have already purchased there. And I don't think that's right.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. Okay, we got a motion and a second to deny. Seeing no hands or hearing nothing from video land, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of denial, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Unanimously denied. Okay. 4-2.
4.2, ordinance to amend zoning map Southern Estates PUD amendment, density increase and parking requirement reduction at Cardinal Point.
Ms. Johnson?
Thanks, Chair Wasvik. So this is a PUD amendment request to make a marginal increase in density and also reduce the parking requirements at Cardinal Point. That's this highlighted lot here at 47th Avenue and South 20th Street. So the owners of Cardinal Point are looking into converting existing office and common spaces into 4 additional residential units. So right now there's 251 residential units, so that would bump up the unit count to 255. The existing PUD specifies that this site is restricted to 25 units per acre, and right now they're maxed out at that. They're at 25 units per acre, so adding additional 4 would put them up to 26 units per acre, which is the density increase they are requesting with the amendment. I also want to give a little context as well. In conventional R4 zoning, the density restriction is 50 units per acre, so just wanted to let you know that as well. And then with the increase in density and potentially adding more units, the number of required parking stalls would also increase. So right now, they currently have 554 parking stalls on site. That includes underground as well as outdoor stalls. And with the increase, they would be required to have 588. With the PUD amendment, though, they are requesting a reduction of 46 stalls, utilizing available parking requirement reduction provisions in our off-street parking ordinance. Specifically in section 18030211C, it reads that the City Planning and Zoning Commission may reduce the total parking spaces required by up to 5% if the developer provides the needed accommodations for transit facilities and vehicles, and a reduction of up to 3% of the total parking spaces required may be permitted by the Planning and Zoning Commission if the developer provides bicycle racks and bicycle access to the property. So they're proposing to utilize the 5% transit reduction by adding a crosswalk through the parking lot. Let me zoom in here so you can see. So yes, they are proposing to add a crosswalk through the parking lot and constructing a new sidewalk and stairway connecting to the public sidewalk, which will eventually provide access to the bus stop over on 20th. So here you can see this is the proposed crosswalk cutting through the parking lot. Then this pedestrian peninsula, which leads down to this stairway down to the sidewalk along 47th Avenue South. The idea is to create a connection over to South 20th and up to this bus stop, which exists here today. And then for the bicycle 3% reduction, they already provide bicycle storage on site and it's clearly well utilized here. So they're proposing to utilize that 3% bicycle storage reduction that we have in code for the existing racks. And so together with the 5% and the 3%, they would be required to have 542 stalls total. So like I said, they have 554 today. So that means with the addition of the proposed 4 units, they would not need to add any additional parking on site. And this requested parking reduction is integral to the project since there's no space on site to add additional parking. It's built out, it's existing, so there really isn't enough space to add more. And I also wanted to provide some additional context to you guys also about the utilization on site now of the parking stalls. So as part of the ongoing parking subcommittee activities, staff has done field visits to observe the parking utilization at various different multifamily complexes, including Cardinal Point. So a staff member went out on a weeknight at 7 p.m. and observed that about 25% of their outdoor stalls were vacant at that time. And then additional information from the applicant is that the average unit occupancy rate over the last 3 years is 91.2%. So you can assume that parking demand most likely doesn't reflect 100% living unit capacity at a given time. So with all of that, staff is recommending approval of the request, and I can stand for any questions.
All right. That was a lot.
It was a lot, sorry.
Did everybody get that? You did a great job. Any questions for Ms. Johnson? Mr. Mattson?
Did they designate how many bedroom the units would be they're looking at adding? They say 4 units. Are they studio apartments? Are they 3-bedroom? Like, is there any indication from the client on that?
That's a good question. That's one I don't know the answer to.
there's someone here. If that's okay, if they come up, they might know the answer to that.
Yeah, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Nate Golan. I'm an architect with 10K Architecture, representing Center Space Homes, the owner and property manager of this property. So to answer your question specifically, the biggest demand that the client is seeing is for studio and one-bedroom apartments. So that would be the target. We haven't identified yet exactly that configuration of where and what spaces we'd use. Obviously, 4 is the number that we're targeting, but it will be either studio or one-bedroom.
Okay. The other question I had, just on this Crosswalk Peninsula, doesn't it make more sense to try and connect that straight east across 20th?
Yeah,
instead of south to 47th?
We had considered that. There's 2 points. One is a technical one, that there's a larger grade differential on that side, so we would have more steps on that side. The other concern that we would have is we'd be creating a new crosswalk at that location where there's one just down the way. And we felt that it was safer rather than if we created that one that goes directly to the west, that you might have people either jaywalking or there's 2 crosswalks lined up, that actually leading them down to the south and then to the west was even though perhaps a little bit longer, was safer.
Thank you.
Mr. Buckey?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts written down here. First, I was glad that you brought up the subcommittee work, right? I think that group met a couple weeks ago, and that involves sort of I think what's relevant there is it involves sort of a survey of different communities, mostly regionally, but there was also information you had from around the country. And items like this where you're able to, substitute to essentially like buy down your parking requirement, seems to be gaining a lot of steam, again, like, and not just in a handful of cities, like broadly. So I think that's
As
great.
long as they're north of Fargo, I'll listen to it. Because we worked hard to get this parking to where it is now, and I'm not going to fall to the night to get rid of it. Because we did. I mean, we worked hard to get, there was a lot of reasons back, years and years of studies and stuff to get it to where we had it. And we took a lot of guff to do that. We cut off a lot of developers at that time that are going to haunt us forever because of that, what they could build it when we were doing that.
Fair enough.
Just my little history on this, and just tough for me to swallow it, to be honest.
Fair.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's compelling to me, though, that when you actually look at the parking lot, only there's a quarter of the spaces are open. So that tells me that there's plenty of capacity there to have four more units. The other thought I had on this was, so there's a quarter of open parking stalls. The photo of the bike rack looked like there was 100% utilization of the bike rack. So I like the concept. I think we should actually require that you add more parking. I love the idea of. I'm sorry. Yes, more bicycle.
It's called storage, Mr. Buckey.
Yes. Yeah.
What else they do there?
Yeah. Sorry. To be clear, I meant more of the bicycle storage indoor. I mean, there's plenty of space right there in the photo. So I'd be in favor of that. And then also, I was glad, Ben, you mentioned the crosswalk orientation. I had the exact same thought, and I even sketched it out. So, yeah, exactly. So I would be in favor of this adjustment, and I think that we could actually require of the developer to install more of the bicycle parking, and even to put it, whether it's indoor or outdoor. I think they've got good options.
Sure.
Anyone else? Comments?
I have.
Ms. Harrell? I saw Sandy too bringing in. Ms. Harrell, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. So I live in this corridor, so I have very opposite feelings. Sorry. It's with the school there, the soccer fields, I have a very big concern about on-street parking. The bus travels down 20th. stops at Cardinal Point, stops at the next half block, stops at the next half block. So you've got congestion twice a day for the busing. That stoplight's not been around for very long. It is still not a great, people still don't pay attention. You come off of Columbia Road and you're hauling and sometimes you forget. So again, more on-street parking congestion is, does concern me. The parking lot isn't always full, I totally agree. So having to add, a significant amount of parking spots seems like a lot, but I do have concern about the on-street parking that could really bog up that corridor right there, so.
Is there on-street parking?
Well, if that's where they want to utilize on-street parking.
No, that is not part of our request. I think the intent is that the 554 spots that are currently on the property are all off-street parking spaces. And so the utilization that we're going after is the reductions is basically allowing that 554 for the unit count.
Yeah, with the 8% together, the two, they would, if those two were to be approved, their requirement would actually be less than they have now, so they wouldn't be getting rid of parking stalls.
They'd just be
Yeah,
utilizing
they wouldn't have to add more. Right.
is what you're thinking.
I think where your confusion is this, the code section that's quoted comes from the off-street parking code or the on-street parking?
So you aren't going to utilize the off-street parking?
No, off-street parking isn't part of our calculation at all.
Off-street is your calculation.
Sorry, now I'm confused. Yes.
We'll all get on the same page.
Yes, so on-street.
Utilize off-street parking?
Off-street, yes, off-street parking is entirely what we are planning to provide with the reductions that the current zoning code allows. On-street parking would not be part of our calculation at all.
All parking
Yeah.
lots.
Yes, all parking lots, so,
Not
and I
part
can
of the
provide a little bit more clarification on numbers. Currently, there's 238 underground covered parking spaces and 316 outdoor surface parking lot off-street parking spaces.
Gotcha, okay, that makes more sense.
Miss Sandy, I believe I saw you chiming in.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I'm not really, the parking to me is really neither here nor there. I will say though that I have a bicycle and I also have a car. So seeing bikes in a bike rack does not mean that those people also don't have a car. This isn't a downtown situation where it's easy to get to a grocery store and perhaps a job and all of those sorts of things. But my concern is that they've already maxed out their density, and is this something then that we're prepared to do for all apartment owners who prefer to on those extra units? Because that's what I feel we're voting on, and I am not in support of that. Yeah, and I will say that it sounds like they have a 10% vacancy rate, so they have some opportunities to be creative with the apartments that they do have that aren't rented to make them attractive to those people who are preferring studios. My assumption is that people are maybe preferring the price of a studio because, and I'm not pointing out Cardinal Point, it's just the way that the world is right now. Rent is expensive. So I won't be supporting this for those reasons.
Mr. Reichert.
Yeah, with Steve's comments, I have PTSD from this development when we put it in. But they want 4 units. They've got 100 extra parking spots. I don't see a problem with it, so I will be supporting it.
Move approval.
Second. Budke?
Oh, second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? This is a tough one because like you said, PTSD is the right word for this. And we're taking something at maximum density, and just to fit it in the laws, we're moving parking around and whatever. I struggle with it because I look at all the developers we sat here and turned down for a lot smaller developments than this monstrosity, so.
So just,
Steve, I'd like
That's what I'm saying.
absolutely, right. So just my thought on, oh, sorry.
Was somebody on TV land talking?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sorry.
yeah, I wanted to reiterate that I think that, there's been a lot of conversation about parking. I think that before we vote, I'd just like to stress that this isn't about the parking. This is about increasing the density of an already maxed out apartment building and setting a precedent for all of the developers in town to come and ask for the same. It's not about the parking. It's about increasing density on a maxed out building.
That's my issue with it as well. It's not about the parking. The parking seems to work out here with the underground. They've done a great job controlling all that, and I've driven by there a lot too, and they've done a great job. It's not about, it's what Megan said, we're setting a precedent on something here. Mr. Budke, I know you want more housing or more small apartments.
So when we're talking about setting a precedent, I think we should just refocus on the request, right? I mean, the request is based on code language that allows for reductions provided certain criteria are met, right? So we're talking about access to transit and bicycle facilities. So, I mean, that's in the code. Other developers have always had the option to request that.
Not go over their density. We've never allowed it.
But that's really about focusing on parking. But that's not the request. That's just a sidebar of the request, is to not have to deal with their parking when they increase the density beyond the most dense that they were already allowed. So I hate for us to be voting on something and thinking that what we're voting on is a parking lot. We're voting on increasing the number of units in the building. I mean, if somebody doesn't have enough parking, if a developer doesn't have enough parking, it's going to be hard to get people to want to live there. I don't give a hoot about the parking right now. What I care about is the density of the building, and that is the primary ask here. That parking would follow the increase of the density. And if we're going to increase the density because they want to take areas of the building that are underutilized, then we need to be prepared for all of the developers who maxed out density, but then also put in a game room or a theater or all of the extra amenities that are available now, to capitalize on those spaces and take those out to increase their density. So we just need to be prepared, because we don't get to pick and choose who gets rewarded to increase the how much they profit on their development. If it goes for them, then we need to be willing to do it for the rest of the developments in town.
Nope. Yep, thank you, Miss Sandy. Yeah, any further discussion? I mean, it's a slippery slope, I think. But you're just the guinea pig that started it all.
Yeah, no worries. May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So, Siri, you mentioned at the beginning of your proposal that the current density of this development versus what's allowed for R2 or R4?
Yeah, so since this is a PUD, it was written into the PUD what its density was. If it was in a conventionally zoned R4 district, then the max allowed there is 50 per acre.
50 per acre.
In our standard zoning ordinance.
Which is more dense than what
I'm
we
not
have
sure
now.
the reasoning why, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, our conventional zoning district, R4, allows 50 units an acre. This particular PUD was capped at 25 units an acre.
So again, I just want to make the point, to compare it against what's allowed in an R4 district, which is conventional, we are still far below the density that would be allowed in a typical R4, is the point that I got.
No, this is good points. This is a preliminary. So with that, will you be sending out letters to the neighbors?
Yes.
I'd like to hear what the neighborhood had to say about this one. There's your PTSD. And maybe think everything's glorious, I don't know. But, no, just making sure that still happens, and we're going to get letters out to the neighbors on this.
Yeah, final approval, presuming it, moves on, that's when we notice 800 feet around the property. And past history has told us that the neighborhoods directly to the north, there's some townhomes there that have been very concerned on traffic and number of units. I don't know if I've heard about on-street parking there, because I do think, but it has been about the density and traffic.
Yep.
To the point.
I think that's my,
Feet on, when I'm looking at Google Earth, does it go to 43rd?
The 800 feet's gonna, look at each of those are probably 300 feet. Yeah, we're gonna get up well past 43rd.
Yeah.
At least 43rd, right? Measure the 800.
I'm not sure if I'm in the 800 feet or not. I probably am just outside of that, but I think.
I don't think so.
Well, I think we've had good discussion on this. If anybody doesn't have anything else, I'll call for a vote. We do have a motion and a second on the floor to approve this. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. That's 4-4.
No, that should be an odd number.
It should be an odd number, 4-5. It passes. Right? Well, let's do a roll call vote.
Yeah.
That's the only way to solve it. Do a roll call vote, please.
Arel,
No.
Budke,
Yes.
Clava,
Yes.
Kuhn, Holt,
Yes.
Mattson,
Yes.
Reichert,
Yes.
Sandy,
No.
Wasvik.
No?
Motion passes 5-4.
Yep. Okay. We'll see you at final. Get ready for the neighborhood.
I'll do that. Or did you?
They'll be here.
Yes, they will.
All right. Reports from the planning department.
I'll just preface this one. So we've got, to the point that we've had the developer meeting that we talked about last time with Thompson Homes piece. We have a much larger piece here. It's the corner of 17th and 42nd. It's been purchased by Oxford Realty Group. They have asked to come in, kind of show you what they're doing before they go to the neighborhood meeting and before they ask you for preliminary approval. So I thought in this case, it's a much larger piece. This is probably a better way to do it. This one's very large. And I think a lot of people have been waiting for something to happen at this corner. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to the developers if that's okay with you. Chair.
Just one quick question, and
Yeah.
before we get on with that, I'm trying to remember those lines there. Is this annexed in, this piece?
It is not, so that'll be
I didn't
part
think
of
so.
the approval.
No, I mean, just good to know.
Yep, and I
This is one of those islands we've been talking about.
When they purchased it, I had a conversation that, once you get your plan together, we need to have a conversation because this needs to come in.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that'll be part of the discussion.
Yeah, please.
And I need to recuse myself on this.
Oh,
No.
I guess I was left out of the soup again. All right, Mr. Corman.
Good evening. Once again, Mike Corman with CPS. I'm glad to be here tonight. And we wanted to like Ryan said, come here before we actually submit the application and meet with the neighborhood. I just wanted to get your ideas on this development. And it's a rather large development too. And also it's Oxford that's doing the development, and Mike Opp is here as well. So I'll just kind of give you the intro on it. And then if you have any questions as I go along, just please ask and I'll do my best to answer. So where we're talking about here, and on the slide, if you look to the right side, that blue delineated area. So 17th Avenue south on the north side, and then the west is South 42nd Street. And then it runs along the coulee that runs through, it's basically the east boundary of that. The schedule, and I think Ryan's already alluded to that. So we're looking at bringing in the preliminary PUD and plat to the May P&Z meeting and then the final in the June meeting. Build out on this is thinking about probably the 2 to 5 year period, and it's about a 30-acre development. So one thing we look at is obviously the current land uses. So on the east side, that's all single family, detached. As you go to the north, there's a B3, a commercial district to the north, and the red polygons. And then on the west side is kind of the black gold area over there. Directly to the south, there's a rather large lot there with a single-family home on it. They are outside of the city limits, but there's an agreement with, as I recall, with that.
Just came in this year. It was a 5-year agreement, and
Oh, so it's annexed now?
It's annexed as of January.
Oh, okay. So I guess I was wrong there. Thank you, Ryan. And then to the south, we have some purple area, that's multifamily with Valley 4000, and then the Empire development on the west side of 42nd. There's also a strip of single-family attached along the east side to the south, and that's what the yellow polygon is. So I apologize for the blurriness of this, but I just kind of snipped out of the land use plan. So this is all taken out of the 2050 land use plan. So we looked at the future development, and I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but you can see where the proposed Burkholtz 8th edition is. So that's all in this yellow area, and in the land use plan, that was urban residential. You can see on the north and the west sides, that's all commercial through there. Urban residential is defined in the land use plan, and I won't read this to you, but it's basically any residential. So basically R1 through R5. So it could be single family, twin homes, multifamily, even a mobile home residential. We're not proposing a mobile home residential. Then obviously we look at the growth tiers. And President Wozniak already talked about this. These are kind of islands out there for the annexation. So that's kind of that red maroon color area. So it's basically pretty ripe for development. There's infrastructure all around it. Okay, so this is a snippet from what we currently have for a conceptual plan, or PUD. So I changed north on you, so north is to the left. And so what we're looking at doing is, if you look at the top of the slide, so that'd be the eastern part of the development, looking at R2 type development. So right now we're kind of looking at single family attached, but that might change. And it could be, some of those might be detached, but they could both be built in the R2. As we continue east, we need a stormwater pond, and we also need some park dedication too. So we co-located the park and pond area. And as we move further to the bottom of the slide, which is west, looking at R4, so multifamily. And then as you go up to the northwest corner, down on the lower left, we're looking at the commercial district too, there's B3. So that kind of matches what's on the north side of the road and what's actually on the west side of the road. This would be the proposed plat. So we were looking at having 24 lots for R2. And then also large, lot 1, block 1 would be the multifamily, and then that corner would be the B3. So we did put together a rendering. A lot of times it's easier to visualize the stuff with a rendering. Keep in mind that these are concepts, right? This isn't actually the buildings going in there. I'll also say, my firm is civil engineers and land surveyors. You'll notice we don't have any windows in the apartments. So there will be windows in the apartments, but Mr. Butke, we're not going to take any of the architecture work from you. So I'll just kind of fly by. So this is looking kind of in the northwest corner, looking to the southeast. So this is that B3 area, General Business District. And then we'll start the video here, and we'll just kind of go around this. You see the multifamily in the background. So these would be, right now we're showing them as a single family attached. Of course, we have our pond there, kind of in the center of the development. Now we're moving in kind of the park area. And then there's amenity building down there. Like I said, this is just a rendering, this is just a conceptual, so it might change as we move along. And then we'll just head over to 42nd Street, and once again, I apologize, there's no windows in the building. That's how a civil engineer would design a building, but. That's it. On that, I can have a few more slides you can look at, but this is just different views of it, so I think you guys have an idea of what the developer's looking at doing here.
So because the size of it, Mike, you gotta put a pond in it, even though Cooley runs right there.
Well, it's required by federal law, so.
I'm just saying, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so let's go up here. So if you look at this, and you probably already picked this out, right? We have basically one public road going through here, and it's a dead end on the southeast side. And so we discussed this with the developer, and one thing we're looking at doing is doing a connection, which I'll show on the next slide. So this would be in the southeast corner of that. So we were going to have like a turnaround here. But Mr. Ops spoken to this landowner. Nothing's been worked out yet, just some brief discussions. But looking at this orange L-shaped, if things worked out, we would extend that road and tie into Bethesda, so you would have a loop. Now, that is a private road through there, so there's a couple of things. There's two property owners we'd have to work with to do that. Obviously, for this too, since this is going to be considered a wetland through here, so we'd also have to get a 404 permit from the Corps of Engineers. So that's kind of what we're thinking, and now we're just kind of looking for some input from you folks to see what you guys are thinking.
Go ahead. Anybody got questions, comments?
I love it. Great job.
I think this looks great. I will say though that I am concerned about tying into Bethesda. That is a private road, and those are privately owned townhouses there, and I think that there is an expectation that the traffic would not be as dense as it would end up being if that were opened up. So I'm hopeful that you can find another route. That's my only comment. Otherwise, I think this is a great development, but I don't think it's right to do that to a private road. There's already that expectation there.
So like I said, we haven't had those discussions yet. I mean, we could actually just do a turnaround on the end, make it like a long cul-de-sac. That would also be an issue with the current ordinance. It would be longer than what's allowed, so we'd have to get a variance for that. Yep.
I think it's great, you guys. I mean, it kind of covers everything. You'll do the neighborhood meeting and see all the residents behind it. Basically, it's the only question, but you've got a coulee there, you've got a nice break. I think it's a nice development. And you're leaving yourselves open R1, R2, so if things change, see how that works, Mr. Bucky? If you're worried about it, change it up. I think you guys did a good job. And I appreciate you coming forward before you even get it in here, giving us a look at it, taking our ideas, and you know if it's just totally not going to work or whatever. So I appreciate your time on this. Mr. Bucky?
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. I had two thoughts looking at it. In the prior slide, when we see along, I guess, South 38th, and I remember this from a few months back, but there was a sidewalk and utility easement. Can I make a request that we have a parallel sidewalk and utility easement on, now on the west side of the coulee that aligns with that? I'll just say that. Yeah, well, okay, so in the image that's pulled up here, it's like the top left of the image, right? There's like a number 13 and a 1.
Oh,
yeah.
right up here, okay.
It's between 19 and 20 on your side.
Bridge we talked about.
Exactly, yeah. Well, an easement would be nice. Then my other thought, I guess just back to the like linking up with the existing traffic control, where you had that commercial at the corner, like the northwest corner, is that, would there be an opportunity for like a controlled intersection there, like to go into the black gold, or is that too close to 17th? Any thoughts on the traffic control at that intersection?
That'll be a discussion we'll have to have with Mr. Grasser on this. You know, right now, it's a full access there. It does meet the spacing guidelines. But that's another discussion we're gonna have to have as we move forward on this.
I would just say there's also another concept, just so you're aware, that brings in an access off of 17th as well. Kind of up where those first town stuff. Two access roads.
Yeah, so there's a concept to come up through here. To do that, we'd have to put a box culvert in as well. We'd have to do some more core permits and that type of thing, but there is a concept with that too.
That lot that you're talking about potentially bringing that road through, has that been annexed already, or is that part of the island?
That just got annexed.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, it's annexed, but we do not have the right, I think, the right of way to connect, I think is part of what he was saying, that there would be,
Yeah.
there would have to be an agreement with Bethesda to say, yes, it's okay to connect, but also they'd have to pick up property from that gentleman that was annexed. So there's a kind of a two-part piece to that. That would, if that's ultimately where it went.
And we can do that either way, because we've looked at, one of the reasons we thought about that is we're dead-ending that road, and that you might not want that, but you're dead-ending to 1, 2, 3 houses. You know, I mean, it's not like there's gonna be a lot of traffic back there, but we just have that as a concept in case it's something that concerned you guys.
In this image, we're looking at the 6 buildings in the middle. Is that garages we're looking at, or? I know it's civil engineer drawings, but.
Yeah. So, you know, and I don't know if this is gonna be built this way, right? But basically what this was taken from, we had done some work with John Miscavige. This is similar to what district apartments is on the south end, where they have the garages below and then they have living space up above. So it would be like a 2-story through there. I'm not saying they're gonna build this, we just had to get some concepts on here.
No, very good. Thanks for bringing it forward. Look forward to seeing this.
All right, thank you.
Once we have that date, we'll send it out to you guys as well. So you guys are welcome to come to that neighborhood meeting.
It's nice to know. No, appreciate the time. Monthly update?
All right, you got the B team on the monthly update, so bear with me here. So we got Mac Construction, contractor shops and storage units. Those are back behind the pilot, gas station 32nd and the interstate there. The Weehee shop, that's up in Oscarville, up on North 42nd. All About Moving, and that's up on the Landfill Road on North 69th Street. And Lewis and Clark is doing a small addition, and that's been approved, whereas those other 3 were under review. I'll quickly go through. We've got those, we've got 3 P&Z subcommittees now, so I know we're throwing a lot at you. The parking subcommittees had one meeting. I think we're on to our next one. soon. We just had the non-conforming subcommittee. I think that's going to be before you next month with a quick report. That one specifically is on some of those, we found some homes that are in commercial zones, and probably going to have a discussion with you about, is there appetite to change some of those zonings? So we just met on that. We'll have a report next month. And sign subcommittee. So we have billboards that have been under a no-build situation for a while. And we have an old sign subcommittee that I think we've lost a few members off of that. So, Chair, I think we had a discussion about potentially setting that up and bringing that back forward again. So I think you were going to look for volunteers potentially for that.
Yeah, that's what we were going to do tonight. Try to resurrect the old sign subcommittee again. Cardinal point and signs are the two things that are my PTSD. Could I hear any volunteers? Sorry. Could I get any volunteers to be on the sign subcommittee? If you haven't been on a committee, I just suggest that you do that as a fun one. No, it's good.
Wait, and I will say, we've got an idea for what we're bringing forward with, it's going to be on billboards. We have an idea of where we're going with this. And it is probably about a little bit more of a restriction out there. I mean, we've been under moratorium and we have an idea. And then we just want to bring that through the sign subcommittee before we bring it through to the full committee again, because I want to make sure that what I'm hearing and thinking, it matches what the sign subcommittee has, and then on to the full planning commission, and city council ultimately has the call on that, so.
Still kind of taking volunteers.
Was it
Trying
you
to-
and I and Megan before?
Mr. Matson, yeah, it was. Oh, there's somebody else too that left.
I was on it before.
Yep, I know, you're a short timer. Short timer down there.
How many do you need?
You got Mr. Matson?
Probably 3 is what we'd be
3 is
looking
usually
for
pretty
minimum.
good.
That's fine.
Mr. L? Mr. Holt, did you
I
want to
could
get
do it.
on one? Throwing him under the bus.
He's on the non-conforming.
I could do it. I was on it before.
Megan, if you want to do it, that's fine.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matson, Mr. L, and Mrs. Sandy, appreciate it. That's your new sign subcommittee.
I'll quickly, MPO, we've got the reports in there where we're at with some of the MPO items. And downtown design review board updates, they're in there as well. I think we just had a really good meeting, and Sierra put together kind of a recap of what happened last year. I think that was really good. And the bills that we're looking at, for this session, House Bill 1500, which is the non-conforming bill, that passed. We'll make sure our ordinance that we're going to be bringing through next month matches that. Everything looks aligned. Senate Bill 2254, that's the fixed route transit, got some funding. And our city's area transit folks worked hard on that. And then the Senate Bill 2398, which we talked about earlier, and I did look, Representative Schauer, I believe, just, he uploaded his information, which was matching what Mr. Matson had mentioned before, but it's taking it to that committee and that they have. So, and it is taking a look at each base and looking at each individual mission. So it wasn't a one-size-fits-all. It's taking a look at them as I understand it. So we'll send out those connections. I think they're hyperlinked on there for you from their piece. So with that, I think that's everything. So if anybody has any questions. happy
Any
to
other
try to answer.
business? Not, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Mr. L. Second by Mr. Clavin. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.